All right, welcome to another episode of the High Performance Podcast. We're here with our with our annual female guest. We just need to do better on that front. But welcome to the show, Doc Liss Fitness, aka we call her Alyssa now. And also shout out to my faithful co-host Jacob. But yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I joke that I feel like for the years that I first few years in the industry, I was like never accepted into any social circles that weren't female, but like the anti-BS evidence-based bro circle has like pseudo adopted me into it with the cult of like 3 other select females that are allowed in this cult, I think. But I can give you a list of amazing guests if you need them for like biannually. If you want to move to that, I have amazing friends. I can give you a list of them.
We're happy to pick up the
We got a couple planned, but we need help.
Yeah. I know.
Because I am also
really
in
women.
a little bit of the bro side of social media as well.
Yeah.
And got the old 90% male following. But
And
again, I want to be there for my 10% female following. And my male following train females.
Yeah, that's all right. I have an 80% female following, so we can trade.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So just for everyone else who maybe doesn't follow you on Instagram already or didn't catch you on the Anti-Fragile Lifting Club, actually, no, before we get into your backstory, I want to congratulate you on out broad jumping Alec Blennis. That's very impressive.
Listen, if I had anything, Alec is like one of those hybrid athletes who's just such a natural freak that it's unfair. And I can't market my fitness like that because I'm not a genetic freak. I'm just regular. And that little win was all I needed. I'll never run a sub-3 marathon, or Zercher RDL 7 times my body weight, but I have a sick broad jump. So thank you for acknowledging
What was the distance on that?
I have no idea, but we set up cones and I beat him.
I mean, Alec, I know, he has to be. There's no way he's under 8 foot. Like he's short, but he's so powerful. It would be fucking solid. The next thing, so I don't know if you've ever heard of push, pull, run, but our mates down in Melbourne, they host this kind of famous, I mean, we call it a hybrid competition. It's not, I wouldn't say it's traditionally hybrid. They only run a mile. But yeah, so it's a max bench press, a max deadlift, and then running a mile as fast as you can. You can have as long a rest as you want. You just have to get it all done on the same day. What would your push-pull-run stats be in peak shape?
Okay, peak shape. Okay, well, my best deadlift of my life was 400 pounds, but I haven't touched that. I would say I put a 3.
Wow.
Yeah, dropping that.
What were you weighing? Because so it's all scaled to body weight. We won't actually know your score, but
probably like 145.
60... mid-60
65-ish kilos. Yeah, ish, give or take. I would say in running shape, the best pull I've ever done in running shape is a 365 pull. So we can go with that. I've done that twice in the last few years. I haven't done 400 since my powerlifting days.
So that's a lock in hybrid shape.
I'd say like maybe a 360 if I haven't done conventional deadlift in like a year, but we'll say 360-ish. And then bench is my worst lift. I'm a hinger, but I'd say I could probably put up maybe like a 165, 170 if I'm actually benching.
That's solid.
Yeah. And then
that'd be solid.
And then I ran a 6:45 mile a few months ago, so we'll go with that.
That'd probably be a podium at push pull run. You should do the online version. I mean, are you you got HYROX? When's your HYROX?
I have Atlanta in 2 weeks and then New York in 7 weeks, something like that.
Push pull run is May 31st, and there's an online competition.
That's my HYROX. That's New York. That's New York. That is New York. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know. I did decide that I think I'm going to switch back to conventional deadlift starting today. So we'll start training for it. We'll see. I've just been doing trap bar. I just have always conventionally deadlift. I needed a break. I was getting bored with it. So I'm going to switch back though. I think I'm ready.
Feels more S&C with the trap bar.
Oh, so do you deadlift all the way up to HYROX, or do you go completely specific with it, or you still keep a lot of general training threads?
So I've been mostly doing heavy squats, but like contrast training with deadlifts. So like speed reps and then some sort of plyometrics. A lot more of what I've been doing, like leading up to my 100 miler and or the HYROX stuff. We've either done heavy deadlift or like heavy squat, and then the other one is usually like speed or power with other stuff. That's just kind of how my coach that has my stuff doing it is. But what I'll do a lot leading up to like, I'm training through this HYROX, but through like my ultras or bigger races like that, I usually will either keep lifting heavy, or once I start to get like that central nervous fatigue, I'll do like banded stuff or speed reps just to kind of keep that power there, but like reduce the load. That's usually the approach I take. So, but I usually lift up until my taper.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Awesome.
I feel like that's a good time to point out that you didn't build your reputation as a hybrid rock star. It was more as a PhD and an ultra marathoner. So it's probably a good time to get into the backstory.
Yeah.
And you also run a successful coaching business. You got a bit going on.
I do a lot. I might not be an Alex Blennis of fitness, but I do kind of am that I am that bitch doing all the things.
He doesn't have a PhD. Oh no, wait, does he?
No, he doesn't.
What
He's
an
just
idiot.
really smart and for no good reason. Just really smart for no good reason. So yeah, for those of you who don't know me, other than my mid performances with running, but pretty strong performances in lifting and out jumping men in the industry, I have a PhD in exercise physiology, specifically in like exercise metabolism, postprandial metabolism, female physiology, all that stuff. And then I've completed a postdoc in menopause and metabolism. Most of my research is like exercise, metabolism, and female stuff. And that's where I got a lot of my reputation in the industry for the girl power things, is just doing a lot of research and work and promoting nonsensical information and training and coaching for women, mixed with I run a business focused specifically on hybrid concurrent training, lifting for runners, running training kind of thing. And yeah, I kind of was an early adapter to the hybrid thing. I think me and Alex Viada came before me, but I want to say I was like probably one of the few people actually like promoting it and talking about it like shortly after him, before it became like the rising trend. So I've been around this block for a while. Yeah, I wrote an ebook on hybrid in like 2021, and like my business started in 2018, like with this concept. So I've been around the block and I've grown this, amazing training systems focused on that. So it's largely like what I use for training, because hybrid is just strength and conditioning and non-stupid training for anyone who doesn't want to specialize in one specific sport or die of cardiovascular or metabolic diseases. So like it kind of goes along with my bias. So yeah, that's kind of my general backstory. And through the course of all of that, I've ran like 17 ultra marathons. Last year I ran my first 100 miler. So I'm a power athlete who is persistently dedicated to running for hours on end.
Wow.
I don't know if this is too deep of a question to dive into, but what is the purpose of doing a PhD? Is it like just because I think it's like a crazy personal achievement? But as far as like for someone who works for themselves, I want to.
So I never intended to work for myself. My business was an accident, a very successful, intentional, once upon started accident. But I went into my PhD with the intention of becoming a researcher, scientist, and professor. I mean, even up and through my postdoc, which I left like a year or two ago now, because of my husband's job, my plan was still like, I was on like the NIH funding pipeline. Like I was about to just get pushed into like the publisher perish world. And the big thing that pushed my business was that with COVID and then my husband's job, like, oh shit, I don't actually know if I have employment. So I just kind of doubled down on my coaching and training my business, and it grew really big and did really well. But for me, it was a mix of, my husband actually says that I probably had no business getting a PhD. I just decided one day that I was going to do it. Like I'm very much so like Elle Woods did. I was just like, yeah, I can get paid to become a doctor of exercise. Let's do it. Like that's what me junior year of college when I learned, but I've always been a really big exercise nerd. And for me, it was just really that quest of knowledge and being obsessed with learning. And I'm your quintessential type A, oldest daughter, overachiever, perfectionist. Not even perfectionist. I'm not a perfectionist, but I'm like a do it all-er, extreme or do it well-er kind of person. So I think it was the perfect storm of just being curious, getting paid to do it. And originally my career plans were to become an academic research scientist, but then TLM and Dockless Fitness kind of just blew up. So here we are. You guys are also getting the most unhinged version of me this morning because I'm like, just caffeinating as we do this, so I apologize.
No, that suits the tone of the show.
I'm just completely unfiltered myself this morning. I'm not professional.
No, that's what we need.
Here's the menstrual cycle, and this is what you do in the luteal phase. Like I'm a lot more unhinged, so I hope that's okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
So were you training people during your PhD or before you were studying, and that's how you sort of had that, or did you just jump straight into the deep end when it came to face-to-face?
So I have never trained anyone in person. I was doing my master's when I started my Instagram, and it started.
I wish I had a siren to hit. If I had the siren noise, like me, but
wait, I have kind of, but I didn't. Hang on, I'll explain in a second. I did.
No, because I believe you can be legit without it. I like this. I like this. I like it.
I taught group fitness in college. Like I worked at the gym and taught group fitness, and I also I tutored and I did things like, I'm not, teaching and all that stuff. And in my PhD, I did teach intro to weightlifting and cycling, which is hilarious because I'm not a cycle instructor, and in how to teach group fitness and things like that. So I know I think that there's a little bit of a caveat to I have done some stuff, but I wasn't trying to be a personal trainer. I was trying to be a scientist. Right.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm a glorified personal trainer scientist. So I got my undergrad, decided I was going to do master's PhD. I was always the fitness girl. Everyone always knew me as the fitness girl, that dumb, annoying girl, always going for a run, always in the gym. That was me all the time. Crazy. And I was just known from that since high school. I was obsessed with sports. All I wanted to do was be an elite athlete. Turns out I was a bench rider for a D2 lacrosse team, but they did go to nationals, left that, become a full-time nerd. So my master's, I started my Instagram because I was sick of dumb fitspos posting dumb stuff. And all my friends and family asked me for advice all the time. And I was little lifts, big lifts, because that's when I was powerlifting. That's 400-pound deadlift.
Just powerlifting.
Alyssa.
Okay.
Yeah, that's powerlifting, Alyssa, beefcake.
Did it blow up or not?
I probably had 3,000 followers or so at the time. I didn't blow up from that, but I had a little bit of a base. And so I released a training plan and ebook in the middle of the second year of my master's because I didn't get paid for 6 weeks and I needed to pay rent. So essentially my start of entrepreneurship, the story of my entrepreneurship is I was a broke grad student who couldn't pay their bills. That was my motivation for starting my business. People are like, what motivated you to start my business? And I was like, being underpaid as a grad student motivated me to start my business. So so I had that ebook, and then I started my PhD actually at Vanderbilt in the United States, and the best molecular physiology program in the country. And I was like, I don't want to be a molecular rat scientist. I want to be an exercise scientist. So I left. And when I left that program in fall of 2017, I said, you know what? I'm starting a business. So I literally went home, did a photo shoot with my sister-in-law who borrowed her dad, who's a photographer's camera. Sat in I worked overtime Dick's Sporting Goods seasonal, sat in a coffee shop on my slow ass computer and wrote a second ebook. And then I released that again. And then that spring, I started my PhD at the University of Georgia, signed up for my first ultra marathon, and launched my business because that's what normal people do. And so essentially what happened, I started with, it's cliche. And I just realized within 3 months of doing one-on-one coaching and training, I was like, people don't need to pay me for one-on-one coaching. I can just make something that can suit most of them in a way that. And that's how the LIST method was born. It's essentially my hybrid training system that essentially is why are you paying people this much? Kind of, yeah. I mean, I would say it kind of is because I think our programs are a step between the classic $10, $15, $20, maybe even $50 a month program where you sign up, but you never really have assistance or help or coaching. Versus one-on-one that's $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. But it's in between that where you get full access to our coaches. You can talk to us. We'll help you map out your race plans. We'll tell you when to switch in and out of programs, where to move and adjust them, give them video feedback. It's like that. It's kind of the semi-private version of online training. And there's not a lot of programs that are in that mid-tier. But it's high touch group training. So it's basically 90 to 95% of the way there. But we just use our templated programs because for most people, if you factor in enough considerations and adjustments and swaps, if you listen to the laundry list of things I make my coaches think before we program anything into the app, you'd actually have an aneurysm. But if you really, really know who you're programming for and what they're going to think your hesitations or obstacles, you can make something work for 90% of the way for most people. And that's essentially what I did. So I wasn't paid that first summer.
Individualization is interesting, hey? Because I'm a believer in it, but I also believe in the power of community and a shared experience. And we got 2 arms, 2 legs, Yeah,
and there's a lot of components of it where it is individualized. You have 170 program combinations of what you can do with our stuff and adjust things. So it's there's a little bit of that where it's okay, most people can make this work for themselves. But anyway, I launched that summer of my PhD because I was only getting paid $1,000 for the whole summer and I needed a new computer. So I was like, hey, let's make money and buy a computer and pay for my groceries. And then I wrote my first ebook that fall on running because no one in the fitness industry was talking about running at that time. And then everything just slowly from there, year after year, just snowballed. And here we are.
That's a great story. If you want to learn more about the general physical preparation training philosophy, we put together an extremely practical course covering all the different aspects of physical preparation, as well as a unit on programming, so you know how to tie it all together and produce the same world-class results that we get with our athletes. We've got pre-recorded lectures, a community page where you can ask questions and interact with the other GPP coaches, as well as monthly calls where you can ask questions live or just catch up and hang out with us. Check out the link in the show notes for more info. Anyway, back to the show. Okay, let's go into some hybrid shit off the cuff. I want to talk about, not for people who love their strength training and don't want to give up on it, but they want to get a marathon done. That's the classic thing. I mean, that's the whole thing, whether that should be, but it is a lot of people's goal when they get into running.
Yes.
Talk to me about I am starting to train more and more of these people. Historically, I've trained people for shorter distances and field sports and stuff like that. The biggest constraint I am running into is their schedule. What is the minimum mileage that's a responsible dose to prep someone for a marathon, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you my hot take. Way too many people disrespect the marathon and 50K distance. They want to do it as a check mark bucket list thing. And you can kind of get away with that with a half marathon. I see it all the time. People are like, I'm running a half marathon in 6 weeks and I have no training base. And we're like, like you're not going to have a good time. But like, okay, like you can kind of Barney Stinson, if you watch How I Met Your Mother, a half marathon and like live to tell the tale. But you're going to have a rough day if you do that with the marathon. Like you're going to just have a rough time. So my unfiltered statement this morning is like, actually give yourself enough time to have a base before you even go into training for it. And 1, you can maintain more lifting. 2, you'll feel a lot better. And 3, you'll get more of an idea of like what you can kind of handle. Like I think a lot of people try to do this linear thing where they go 0, 26, instead of like, hey, let's get to a base. Let's maintain that, actually gain some fitness, not feel like shit, adapt, and then build up to that race. That's my preferred approach. So that's my hot take for people listening. But I think that at the least, if you're going to train for a marathon, you should run at least 30 miles as your like peak week type week things, and at least like a 15-mile long run. That would be my kind of like minimums to reach.
As a weekly workload, sort of.
Yeah.
So obviously that's peak. Yeah. What do you reckon sort of average sort of, which I know is sort of hard to give blanket recommendations.
So that's like my minimum. Like you should at least reach that by the end of your training block before your taper for at least like maybe that last 2 to 3, 4 weeks. Yeah. So
then
probably
just find the responsible starting point.
Yes. So the starting point is more so, are you running at all? If you're not running at all, build a bigger timeline to your race. If you are running, that's where the biggest thing with people, they'll be like, hey, I want to run this race in 3 months, but they have no time. They have no base. Like they're not running at all. So it's going to take you longer to adapt to that. It doesn't mean you can't do it. Usually what I recommend to people is get as far as you can. Don't try to rush to what you think you should be. Like if you're not going to responsibly get to 30 miles a week in a 15-mile long run without risking injuring yourself because you did too much, too fast, too soon, titrate in kind of thing. So I think a good base for most people would be realistically, like you can run at least a 10K, 6 miles an hour. I think that's a good like long run base to have there, and running like 3 days a week. I think 3 days a week from a frequency standpoint is really good, because I think a lot of people then when they try to bump that up, they don't understand that like volume distribution across the week is going to make it a lot easier to get in your training and recover and not blow up on yourself kind of thing, like spacing that out instead of just like 2 days of training. So try to get to like 3 days a week. Because you're probably going to run 3 or 4 days a week, or run 3 and cross train a 4th for a marathon. Usually to get that volume in, you're going to need 3 or 4 days a week would be my minimum. I like 4 a little bit more just from that frequency standpoint. But again, like we're talking realistic with people. I'd say, a 10K long run, I think is a good base, and maybe running at least 10 miles a week, ideally maybe like 15 kind of thing, I think would be good, which is like, I don't know. You're my Aussie people.
That's very helpful.
I can't do kilometers in my head. You can convert all that. These are rough. Like someone might listen to this and be like, this girl's full of shit. And this is what I just do with a lot of Gen Pop people. These are just like the recommendations of where I'm like, you're probably going to have an easier time if you have this going into this kind of thing.
Is there any subjective markers that you look at before, like the actual objective ones when leading into that prep? Like, are you feeling fitter? Are you feeling like you can recover better? Anything like that?
So at this point in time, people do what they want to do. So we just kind of accommodate to their goals and timelines and then give them the realistic truth of like, hey, this is rushed and you're probably not going to get as far as you want, or you're not going to feel as good. But like, these are the things you need to look out for and let us know. So I'm usually more so looking for like, do you have any underlying injuries? Do you have any underlying histories of under eating, disordered eating, restrictive eating? Because you're going to have a huge spike especially in women, they're going to have a huge spike of activity. Usually it comes down more to realistic of like what your body and tissue can actually handle versus what they think like their aerobic system can handle. I think that's the harder thing with people. So like, what has been your consistent running frequency, mileage, duration, or kilometers last like 4 to 6 weeks is something that we look at a lot with starting points for people, rather than just like, oh, you ran a half marathon a year and a half ago. Okay, that doesn't matter. Like if you haven't ran it all since. So it's usually like recent running history in like 4 to 8 weeks is like what we're looking at, as well as just like overall training history. Like if you get someone who's like, I've been doing CrossFit for years, I'm super fit, like I'm higher level, those people probably adapt a little bit quicker. You can probably ramp them up a little bit sooner if they have a high training history versus like the Gen Pop person who's like never ran at all in their life. They're going to probably need a lot slower of a build to adapt because they don't have any underlying physiology, that it's just going to like be really hard for them. They're going to be under recovered because the unfortunate reality I feel like with beginners is they have to handle less, right? They can't handle as much as someone else. So they also need longer to get to the thing that they're trying to do. Or we're just reframing timelines. Maybe you're walking a lot of your first marathon. Maybe we're implementing run walk a lot more, or you're just time capping stuff instead of distance capping stuff. So it's really just kind of depends on like the person's fitness level coming into it.
I end up time capping so much.
Yeah. And explaining to people that like they'll still be ready because just going to mileage and a distance it's usually mental for people. They think if I don't run a 20-mile long run, I won't be able to do that. And honestly, the thing that shifted that for me, I ran 100 miles, I ran a 50-mile race, but still that's double the distance, right? Like that was like my longest run.
That was my next question. Like adapt it to the ultra.
Yeah, but like, people don't understand that it's not just the long run. It's the volume of what you do across the week and consistently over time that's going to make your running capacity. Yes, the long run's important, but way too many people think like, well, I'll just do like 2 like little tiny runs in the week and then rely entirely on the long run. I'd rather you have like a slightly shorter long run, but have more volume across the week to have some like of those bigger.
The start of the week have like an easier run that's slightly longer so you can offset that long run. Okay.
Yeah, like it's not to say like steal from the long run, but if someone's like making the trade-off if they're only doing 2-mile runs in the week and then a 13-mile long run on the weekend, I'd rather them, add a little bit more to just to get a bigger dose and stimulus of that aerobic training when they're doing it, right? And that tissue adaptation and frequency of that kind of thing. I will say the biggest thing with people who are general pop is that a lot of them want to dive into like a ton of speed workouts and quality workouts and high intensity training because they think that's what they need. And having that hard conversation of like, you aren't even fit enough right now and you're not adapted to training, that you need to just like run and that will make you fitter at running, versus if they have a base going into it and they have been doing some quality work or have more time, then you can actually like, okay, we can do some faster stuff during it. I think that's the hardest thing with Gen Pop people is they want to ramp up their volume and their intensity all at once while training for this goal that they're completely underprepared for. And like kind of having that moment of like, you're going to blow up and you're going to either get shin splints or your knees are going to start hurting or your ankles are going to start hurting or your Achilles going to revolt on you or like whatever it is, because they just want to like drink from the fire hose for this goal that they're really excited for. So I think titrating realistic expectations of like what you can adapt to is probably the bigger obstacle with this, I would say, with people. So there is a little bit of nuance of it depends on someone's training history and background, right? Like really, really fit people can probably handle that little bit more quicker and be fine. You can just kind of adapt them and see how they respond versus like the less fit people who are doing it as a bucket list item. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know what they don't know. They just know, oh, I want to do this. And this is what I see people doing online. So I should be doing a long run, a tempo run, a speed workout day. And that's my week of training. And it usually doesn't hash out to be as idealistic as they think it is.
So many times when I'm periodizing my running for my beginner running clients, I'm like, I'm basically just trying to entertain this cunt. Like, because sometimes I have my moments where I'm like, I just want to say like, fucking run and like run whenever it suits you. Like, I don't know when it suits you. Like, I mean, I ask them when they like, But no, and so much of the time, again, like I do love the 3 run a week strategy again. The GPP group program is the best deal in strength and conditioning. For less than $1 a day, you get access to my programming, as well as access to me through a group chat where you can reach out, ask questions, or have a form check. You can even get a week for free before you commit to it. Check out the show notes for more info.
I know that you're quite experienced with Gen Pop, and currently I have two people going for a half marathon. Very busy individuals, CEOs, in the corporate space. The 3 runs a week obviously is a bit of a stretch, and especially getting that third one, it always misses the mark. How would you structure someone? I know it's not ideal on 2 a week. What's prioritized? What isn't? And yeah.
I mean, my hot take is I think like 3 is like my minimum distance for most running goals for most people. I hate to say that. I just think 3, if you're going to do anything, you have to run at least 3 days a week with a bigger goal, right? Like if people are just running for health or fun or recreation or maintenance, I do think that so that's my immediate thing is okay, can we pull back lifting to 2 days a week, right? If they're lifting 3-4 days a week to get that in for that goal, just simply because of keeping frequency, time on feet, getting in enough volume. But
no one's brought that up before on the show. That's a hot take.
That's good. That's my hot take. It's
if you're struggling with the running.
I just think that and I think the half marathon is a great distance for a lot of people who are short in time to achieve in 3 days a week. You could probably do it on 20 miles a week if you, or whatever that is in kilometers for you guys. You can really kind of get most Gen P people can probably get that with less than ideal training than if you want to do a ton more and PR and be amazing, be awesome kind of thing. But that's my hot take is I think 3 is a good minimum. But if you're only doing 2 days a week, I would suggest that they have a cross training of some sort on a third day, whether that's biking or the elliptical or whatever it is. If they're a gym rat and they want to do that, if they can. If not, hypothetically 2 days per week, I would do a long run and I would do assuming they're built up to the distance, a moderate medium distance run in the week with maybe some quality, fartlek style quality stuff mixed in if they can handle it. But
love a bit of fartlek. Shout out to fartlek.
Yeah, maybe some fartlek style pickups or striders mixed into it. Maybe not if they have a decent base, maybe they can handle intervals. But that's where maybe you do that on an air bike later in the week if they're not used to that, but they don't have the volume to do 60% of their training week as a speed workout. You know what I mean?
Okay. Right.
Introduce lactate off feet because that's what I do with normal conditioning. I don't know why I don't do the same thing with lactate because by the time I introduce lactate, I'm they can handle a decent amount of running volume.
A lot of people think
they'll do it better off feet.
A lot of people think I'm anti-beginners or unfit runners doing high intensity stuff. And it's not that I'm against it. It's that they usually can't handle it with the running. They can't handle it with the running. But if you put them on an air bike or a regular bike or maybe not a row or ski, because they might not really, bikes are just easy because no one really can mess up the form of the bike. You can absolutely handle that. If you want to do higher intensity intervals, threshold work, start training that. It's usually that if people have a low running mileage and they're trying to bring up their mileage and they're trying to train for something and they slap intensity on it all at once, or they aren't even gradually exposed to that intent, because high intense running puts more strain on different tissues, right? You start putting more strain on your Achilles and your calves and all that stuff, that I find that it's not I'm you can't do intensity. It's that you're going to blow up if you are trying to increase your mileage. You've never done anything fast in your entire life. And you just start hey, I'm going to just do this 8x800 run workout because I saw it online. That's where it's there's that nuance of I really like the easy, which for most people who are unfit is not easy. They're not in zone 2. They're not actually below their aerobic threshold. They don't have an aerobic base. They're probably running in zone 3 or 4 for most of their runs to begin with. Yeah, they're probably running in zone 3 or 4 to begin with.
Everyone thinks they can.
Yeah, and you either cross-train to add in the zone 2 when they're a beginner, because that's the way they're going to hit it, or you cross-train to add in the higher intensity stuff before as your tissues actually adapt to what you're doing, so you don't blow up at the same time. That's the advice I would give, kind of thing. And because it's not that you can't handle intensity. I mean, some people are very untrained that they might not be ready for it. I like to titrate people kind of up. I really zone 3 gets a lot of shit, but I love a tempo threshold steady state interval as the first way to expose people to speed workouts with running, because you're not doing so fast, but you're just getting used to that and microdosing it into your run. I think that's
less
really
complicated as well.
Yeah, just run moderately hard.
3x10 of running.
Yeah. And don't go straight to like a zone 5 sprint uphill. No, uphill. Actually, if you're going to add speed outside for people, hills are probably safer because of that increased cadence and thing. That's actually, maybe I'll take that back. Or using striders. Like I love giving striders to people in their early stages of it because they're just practicing picking up running a little bit quicker in the middle or the end of an easy run. And they're kind of like, again, microdosing in that speed without like blowing themselves up, because really runners get injured all the time because they just do too much too fast too soon. And that's where like with Gen Pop, my first thought goes to like, how do we keep you from exploding your shins or whatever it is that you're dealing with because you just want to like, you want to do more than your body's just ready for yet. And how do we get you there so you can be ready for that? And sometimes people hate that because they want to train hard or they have these goals, but like give them that taste in other ways. Like, hey, let's hop on the bike and do the air. And when I used to do CrossFit in between my ultra seasons, I'm telling you that air bike made me fitter than anything else. I swear to God, air bike intervals, like the 1 year, brought my running pace down substantially just by hammering
Is that for longer distances? Wait, so respond to this statement. Lower limb capacity is overrated.
What do you mean? Can you clarify before I get
people in fit competitive runners?
Oh, yeah, probably. Like they can probably
for longer distances. It's like, because in my head, the way I currently think about it, I'm like, no, you need to be getting those ground contacts if you want to be crushing marathons. And I know you're not saying, I know you're still being like, no, run a lot. If you want to run and compete in long distances, you're going to run a lot. But the off feed is heavily overrated, even with, because even I do that. I do. As soon as they're fit enough to run, I just get rid of the fucking off feed altogether. Except for field sports athletes.
Yeah. Like I mean, unless they need cross training because they can't handle it. Like if you have a history of like a ton of Achilles stuff and maybe they can't handle the higher intensity stuff of the volume they need or whatever it is. Yeah. And I think for most people, like running is the goal. Like you want to run. But if you can't handle that, then like we need to get you to the place. Like the goal should be getting to the place that you can handle it, or accepting that like I'm going to be an on and off race, take a huge break season runner and never get there. And maybe you're always kind of taking this approach and just, I agree with that. Because eventually the goal is to run, right? And most Gen Pop people don't want to hear that in order to get better, or run in zone 2 or be able to handle more, is to do more volume. They want to run 10 kilometers a week, 20 kilometers a week. And then they don't know why they're not getting better. And at some point in time, you're probably going to have to run 30, 40, 50 miles a week if you actually want to make big physiological. You just need that dose. Like you just need that volume dose. And it's okay if you don't want that or you don't have the time for that, but you have to just be realistic about like what you can achieve with manipulation of intensity versus easy versus on versus off feet type conditioning to get you to where you want to be.
Nice. Let's pivot into maybe a hopefully a funny topic.
Yeah.
Did you ever read Lyle McDonald's women's book?
I know what it is. I haven't read it.
I had a feeling you missed that.
Yeah, it was, I remember like it being a thing long before I was a female phys like person. And I remember
such a time. You missed out.
I know. I was a little bit in my academic, but this was before I even realized all of this shit about female training was like such a thing. But then early on in my female phys years, a lot of his stuff, I think most of it has died. Yeah, I came across my desk kind of things. And I don't think I try to get access to it for like free and skimmed a few chapters, but I was like, I'm not paying for this or buying this. Like I'm not kind of thing. But that was the original misinformation of female physiology and training from my understanding. Like that is the root cause issue. Before
it was the thing that got male trainers grilling their female clients about their period. Like in the initial consultation, it'd be like, what are your goals? And now give me a detailed rundown of your period. So that was the first time I heard anything about periodizing around the period, for lack of a better. Forgive the.
I love saying that. I love saying it. It's hilarious. It's amazing.
That's. So did he started? I mean, he started a few things. I like some of the things he started. Not that one was a bit garbage, but sorry. Yeah.
No, it's that, and I don't know if that. I mean, maybe in the bro body, there's like two camps in the industry, right? There's like the industry was completely founded on bodybuilding, and sometimes that's just plagues everything else because everyone's perception of what they should be doing with their training comes from a bodybuilding perspective, and then you have like the no offense to the bodybuilding culture, but if I have to debunk bodybuilding type culture stuff with my clients one more time who have performance-based goals for like hybrid or endurance or running training, like you don't need a 6-day-a-week lifting split if you're hybrid training. Like you don't even have time to fit in your training. Like you have to let go of that.
Deep-seated, yeah.
Strength training is so bloated for people who have goals outside of strength training and hypertrophy.
Yes. I mean, my hot take is hybrid training is actually like a lot more endurance training than it is strength training. And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that you should, because you can get a lot of quality with less with hybrid training. With strength, is you have like a good strength training base. Like some people do need a period of time where you're actually like not becoming a baby deer. But like beyond that, you can do a lot with less at high quality, but people do low quality, high volume. Yeah. Well, my team looks pretty stacked at HYROX. I'm telling you, we're all lifting 3 days a week. So anyway, then you have like the woo-woo wellness, naturopathic. I actually know nothing about strength conditioning and exercise physiology, but we're going to give exercise prescription guidance, or dietitians who literally don't even know what resistance training is, giving periodized prescription things. So we have like these two sides, right, of the industry that everyone's just like in the middle here, and they just don't even know what to do with this information, right? Like they think everything's going to kill them is essentially what it comes down to. It's like running kills your gains, running kills your cortisol. We're all getting fat from exercise now. Like women can't handle even thinking about the gym more than once a week, or they might implode. Like that's the conflict that I think of.
Very fragile.
So fragile. We're going to snap in half and just implode kind of thing. So
period is a disease. Sort of is the vibe I get. It was the sort of vibe that it was the picture that was painted by the industry.
Yes, that's essentially what it is. And the recent literature on it, like I think in the early days, it was all speculation and hypothesis, which I think maybe in Lyle's defense, or maybe these early adapters of this, like we didn't really have a ton of studies on this. So at that point in time, it really was okay to be like, here's what we kind of know, and here's what we kind of think, and this is what might be happening. Like that, I think 10, maybe not even 10, 15 years ago was like, okay, like that was where we were at knowledge-wise on that. But then people have just clung on to that still, and they're not adapting to like these new studies that we do have coming out. And people love to say like women are understudied and under-researched. And I think it's so funny when people pull that one on me.
I hear that a lot.
Me and my friends are the ones who published the most recent study quoting those statistics. Like we did that analysis. So it's like, yeah, I know that we are understudied, but like less studies doesn't mean no studies. And that doesn't mean that we should just like make shit up and use hypothesis for our application. Like just because there isn't a study to answer, like we have stuff that can inform. And like most of the data we have is that women adapt to training similarly to males, like with different baselines, or as long as we're fed, none of it matters. It's like essentially what it comes down to, right? Or adjust based off your perception. RPE captures 90% of that for most people. And you don't need to do HIIT 6 days a week and starve yourself to be healthy, right? Like that's where most of the problems are coming from.
Yeah. Is there legitimacy to the statement? Because this is another thing I hear, and it's been explained to me in a logical way. They say that women are bad test subjects because like they have more fluctuations, or like they're less consistent day to day, which like I could like see, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that a legitimate thing to say? Or no? I know you need to stop.
I think people who do that, no. I think that people who say that are just lazy scientists. What it comes down to is that studies, I just think if I have a PhD student who had $2,000 to run her entire dissertation, figured out a way to do it, I'm sure people with like higher quality labs
it's happening. So
to do it. Like it's possible. It's hard, right? I think there's a few things with this. One, you do have to consider the menstrual cycle. And especially if you're doing a repeat bout training, you either have to keep it on the same phase. So your female subjects take more time, right? Because if you're only doing it like in the follicular phase, then you have to wait 4 weeks to do their next session, right? Versus like every single week of the month. So that does extend the timeline. And there is a slightly additional cost burden, right? Of having to test ovulation or tracking, or participant burden of asking them to track their cycles. But I find women participants are incredible. They will do so much for you. They want to learn about their bodies. They are amazing. They're like, I'm like, you guys, like they're way more willing to do. They track their cycles for me. They track their ovulation. They texted me. Our postmenopausal women and the clinical trials working on were like, we want to make the next generation have better data. So we want to do this. Like they're letting us take adipose tissue biopsies, and like we're shoving microdialysis needs in there. Like they're amazing. Right. And so there is.
Yeah. Cause women are in the health system more, like women are used to getting probed. And I know that's like a negative.
No, they are. And
for the lab.
There was that one study that went viral where people said that women didn't want to be test subjects in exercise science stuff because they weren't interested in pushing themselves hard, and everyone pushed that. But like the effect size difference between men and women in that was like nothing. Like it was like, yeah, it was more, but it was like the overlapping of the, you know, the parabolas of your thing statistically was like basically, I was like, okay, so they don't want to go super hard in the lab, probably because they're not doing it in training because we have psychosocial issues that don't train women 100%. To push hard, train hard, have a sports background more than anything. But that's a tangential rant. It does take a little bit of consideration. But I think that, you know, there's a few things. One, I think that sometimes the evidence-based industry does a bad job of like making it seem like every research scientist, if they don't do it 100% perfectly, it's not worth doing it at all. And I don't want us to think that we need to like wait, like women's research needs to be perfect to get out there. Yes, we should have quality control where we can, especially with menstrual cycle tracking and being a little bit more precise with it. But that doesn't mean that you should exclude women from your studies, right? I think that's a lazy excuse. Just control for it or account for it, or at least report it kind of thing. And two, like there's a lot of studies that aren't sex specific that you can include men and women in, and just like the easiest thing that you could do as a researcher, it's not perfect for the whole cycle, but just track them at the onset of menstruation. Because if you know, hey, I got my period today, come into the lab within the first 3 to 5 days, you don't have to take blood. You don't have to take ovulation. You don't have to know, like you just sort of like, hey, you are in the low hormone phase. We have 3 to 5 days to get you in the lab. Like that's the lowest, easiest hanging fruit way to do it. That doesn't require like money or resources. It's you know, it's not capturing the whole menstrual cycle, but it's at least like then you can include women in your studies in a really easy reportable metric, right? Like you're like, hey, I started my period today. Guess what? I can come in for testing, right? So it is a little reactive from the testing standpoint, but yeah, I don't know. My female participants have always been really, really amazing, except for the diet intervention that I did. And they just we're a little haphazard with that. Asking college girls to follow an RP strength template for 8 weeks during that, like, it was just not the easiest thing to do. But one girl reported one day 8 shots of Tito's and a handful of blueberries. And I was like, you go, girl. Like,
hell yeah.
You go, girl.
I bet she was in amazing shape.
Yeah. So that's my spiel on that.
Is birth control a medical conspiracy to hurt women?
I mean, I don't think so. I'm going to get the pitchforks for me. I do a really good job in the online space of just like not directly addressing the super controversial things because I'm so burnt out of fighting with people from 2019 through 2022. I was like, I got my stripes. I'm over it. But I don't think so. I do think that there's a lot of lack of information and education on like potential side effects or, you know, informing them on what options they have or if they need to be on it versus not, or using it as like a band-aid for underlying things that people potentially like are bigger issue, like especially like loss of cycle, or in young girls, we should probably not be starting them as teenagers as often as we are, especially if they're, you know, at risk of bone loss or high endurance athlete. Like there's little things like that where I'm like, yeah, we could probably do a better job at like informing girls and women about potentially their options, the side effects, the things they have going for them. But I mean, I'm biased because I haven't been on birth control since I was 18, right? It was an informed choice that I've made for a lot of things in my life, but I think that the issue is more so that like a lot of women are realizing they didn't understand that there were potentially, like with any medication, there are negative side effects, or if they had an underlying issue, maybe that didn't 100% fix it. But for some people, it is like a medical, I don't want to say necessary because I'm going to get banished for saying necessary, but like a medically beneficial treatment for things that they might be dealing with. But that doesn't mean that it should like replace, like if it's a lifestyle type issue that is going on, right? So that's my nuanced take on that. I won't have a hot take on that. I don't know. I've had not a negative experience with birth control. It's not really killing your
game. It's not straight poison. Like,
yeah, I just think I also think that that's like hurtful to a lot of women because it is an informed choice for managing both conception and, or like, who are we to say that you can't make choices of what to do medically with your body if you don't want to deal with symptoms of an underlying condition or that helps you manage it? Like, that's an informed choice that you should be making with your medical provider instead of being told that you're being pumped with poison kind of thing. Do I think that there is benefit to female sex hormones and potentially fluctuations of higher estrogen across the month in the menstrual cycle? Yeah, that's probably a good thing. And right, like I'm going to probably get off my birth control finally, like later this year. But, I also don't think, I think it's so funny that there's just this controversy of birth control, but then like now it's like everyone should be on like medical hormone therapy and menopause or you're going to die. And I'm like, that's like the menopause equivalent of birth control, more or less. It's not the same, you know what I mean? But it's still like exogenous hormones. So I'm like, but I guess there's fear mongering around that as well. But I think it's so funny. This flip is like, you're going to die if you don't replace estrogen. like that's like the after telling women for years that they're going to die if they do kind of thing. So I just find it ironic that that narrative flips really quick.
Pendulum.
But again, more like everything is a threat.
Everything for women is
and
a threat.
There are threats.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that like, you know, make medically informed decisions, have honest conversations with your doctor where you actually ask them about your skin concerns. Like when I started to get into the literature more in my PhD, I went to my OB/GYN and I was like, hey, I'm concerned about like my family history of cardiovascular disease and having elevated blood triglycerides and like yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And I was getting blood work with the Inside Tracker at the time. And I do have some, like my triglycerides or cholesterol will float up if I don't watch it. But like, I just improved my dietary patterns and those went down without getting off birth control. And she kind of looked at me, she's like, you're training for ultra marathons. Like you're about as cardioprotective as you're going to get. Like, I don't think you're the one who's like at risk for this. And like, it was just an honest, open conversation because I was like, hey, I've been looking at this data. Like, I'm concerned about this. And like, I just brought that to my doctor and talked to her about it. And we weighed the pros and cons of me getting off of it in the middle of a PhD. And I decided that that was a con kind of thing. And like, we just had an informed conversation about the best choice for me at the time. And I think I encourage all women to advocate for their own health, ask questions. You know what I mean? Like, actually, you know, if you're hesitant or curious, like, don't be afraid to be annoying if it's your health. Like,
yeah, that definitely seems like a thing. Like you have to take a lot of personal responsibility. Like a lot of doctors will say no to certain things and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're determined to get certain advice, it's like, don't be afraid to,
you know,
just ask more questions, apply some pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do agree a lot of women get shut down from a lot of things and that's shitty for them. So I'm not trying to dismiss that experience where they just get told, get on a pill, it will fix everything. And they don't actually get the help that they need underlying that. My encouragement is probe further or make the best choice for you.
We absolutely love doing this show. And one of the most exciting things for us is watching it grow because it means we can commit more time to it, as well as have access to better guests to bring you even more quality content. One of the most impactful ways you can help us grow the show is by shouting it out, screenshotting this episode, and sharing it on your stories to let people know that you're listening. Don't underestimate how influential you can be on helping us grow this show, and we appreciate it so much. Let me try some HYROX questions first because I'm also getting it. I'm prepping someone.
Are you prepping?
No, I'm not touching it.
You don't
Sorry.
want to
I'm not judging either. I'm not judging.
You want to do Australian mixed doubles?
I just have a thing. I can't handle it. But so many people that I think are so fucking sick are into it. So it's just something same as kettlebells. I fucking hate kettlebells.
That's okay.
And I want to make so many memes about kettlebells. But I cherish so many people who like kettlebells. That's not why I like it. Anyway.
You can make fun of HYROX because it literally stands for hybrid rock star, which is the biggest ick.
Fuck?
It's the biggest ick.
Is what it stands for?
I think, yeah. And that's the biggest ick of the whole thing. That's the biggest ick of the whole thing.
Oh, God.
Hybrid rock star.
It's like...
It's cringy.
And the people who win it are fucking beasts. A lot of like really fit fucking people do it. Yeah, I just have a... Anyway, I'm just saying my problem with it.
I'm doing
it's worse if I'm bad.
Like, I'm not like someone who's like, I'm so offended if you make fun of it kind of thing. Like, I'm just fucking around and finding out with my fitness at this point in my life. I'm not getting younger. We're just seeing what we can do.
This is my problem with it. It's like CrossFit, but they've ripped out all the fun stuff to watch and do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Marketing wise, I think is fucking genius.
Stuff. Yeah, I think so we actually had this conversation on our last podcast episode with my coaches recapping DC, is that because me and my other coach, Trevor, who we actually met in our PhDs, he's a smart guy. We used to do CrossFit together at the same gym. And now he works for the gym that works with me online, blah, blah, blah. And it's really similar and different in the sense that it's like, think of HYROX more of like, if you run a 5K, you're running a 5K. You know what you're running every single time. You know what you're getting into. 10K, half marathon. Think of it like that because it's repeatable, predictable. You know what you're doing and you can like strategize where you need to improve pacing and all that stuff more than like it's kind of like a long CrossFit chipper if you want to think of it like that, but without the constantly varied fitness, which completely is not CrossFit at all because entire premise. So I have a CrossFit level 2 certification for the disclaimer here, which I also think CrossFit, you can make fun of CrossFit too. I think CrossFit's worth making fun of sometimes too, but I do think it has some valuable things. to offer that a lot of the industry that comes from the bodybuilding only world.
I like CrossFit.
Yeah, I like it for Gen Pop people. My husband did his dissertation work on CrossFit. I actually think for like the regular person,
really?
yeah, he did his dissertation. Like my PhD advisor is a big CrossFit junkie, and like that's his whole shtick kind of thing. But he's doing a HYROX now, so everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid. So it's like kind of think of it as like you're doing a preset race, and you know what you're doing, and you know what you're getting into. And HYROX is a running event. It is a running event with some station breaks. Where CrossFit is is it more of a constant?
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's a running event. It's the station. I mean, unless someone's like incredibly weak and doesn't have any work capacity, like muscularly, I mean, like you have to, be slightly trained for them. When I say this, people are like, no, you can't neglect the stations. And I was like, like if you have any sort of strength background, you can neglect the stations. Like I barely train station work other than like lunges and wall balls, like the quad stuff with the running. Cause I like, that's the fatiguing thing of it. But I was like, you just need to be kind of strong. And I mean, like if you're doing the pro weights, probably maybe being a little bit more specific because that is really heavy, but like it's running. You were training to run. Like Tia Claire Toomey basically stopped lifting to train for HYROX because she's just running because it's a running event. Like it's a running event, like, so that's my hot take on it. It's like basically if CrossFit was a running event, that's what it is.
So I have a follow-up question because I was literally on a call like with this client this afternoon and she's 4 or 5 weeks out and she's sort of talking about whether or not she should add an additional HYROX class because with me, she just does running and lifting. And plyos because I love people doing plyos, but then because she was like, should I be doing more of the stations and things like that? And I kind of came because I was like, no specificity, and we're like 4 weeks out, sort of thing. Yeah. Should we turn up? Or she is doing one HYROX thing. Should we just keep getting her stronger because she's getting stronger, but she's not like at the level of like someone who's not going to be limited by strength in her time.
Yes. So my biggest thing with all things hybrid training for all people, I have this like hybrid training pyramid that like I came up with back in 2021 before everyone was hybrid. Is that
get the ebook? Is the ebook still available?
The ebook is still available. I just don't promote ebooks anymore because no one wants to learn. They want 7 seconds of every hack you've ever heard in your entire life that makes them feel good, and then they scroll on, like, or they want to comment for something free they're never going to read. Like that's the current state.
Yeah, we're getting into that.
Anyway, I know you got hit with my robot this morning. I have a mini chat for everything, but
because I was going to ask you about it. Anyway, sorry.
Listen, I have a mini chat for everything. So my base is like if you need a strength base and an aerobic base to build any sort of work capacity on. If you don't have those, it's going to suck. Doing hard intensity stuff like speed work, CrossFit workouts, like high glycolytic, basically lactate activities, a lack of better words, is going to suck if you don't have the ability to clear and use oxygen, or you don't have any sort of like strength skill, like foundational strength skills that where you can actually like move and have like neuromuscular connection with your body that you're not like a Bambi. And then from there, it's like how much volume can you handle, of the running or the cardio or the conditioning mixed with the lifting, like getting more high skilled, more technical, more advanced, whatever you want to think of that is. And then from there, it's a lot easier to refine that to that like higher work output, work capacity type stuff. It's going to be so much easier to do that when you have those things. And then from there, like at the hybrid peak, it's like, well, where do you suck? Where are you lacking? Where do you need to specify? Where do you need to take time to like refine? Like, so for me right now, I'm focusing this year on getting faster. I'm strong. I've always been strong. I don't need to keep getting stronger. If I just push my weights a little bit, I'll go back up to normal. Like I have a good foundation of that strength. Yeah. Like, but I have a huge base. Yeah, but I'm not really good at that. Like I joked with Alec on our thing. I have like a phosphocreatine system and an aerobic system. I have no glycolytic system. Like I just don't have the in-between. It makes no sense physiologically. So this year, like I'm dialing in on that, right? But I did like, that's where people struggle is like stringing it together is they're lacking those other pieces of that base. And it sucks. But all that to say, work on those, especially regular people. Like I think it will serve them better, especially they're not going for like these specific dialed in times and pacing. Like I hopped on HYROX and had a pacing plan and execution plan, but like I feel like I was at the level where, and I did like a 119. It's not like I was running an hour race. You know what I mean? But like that's, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like, you know what I mean? I'm not like elite or anything like that. But I do think there's benefit to doing like HYROX specific, slightly longer workouts where you are practicing like doing the stations, transitioning between them, knowing how you're going to feel and recover and respond to your legs. I do think there's benefit in that with HYROX, but I don't think people need to be doing like
the things before feeling some things.
Yeah, I'd say like one longer workout per week and maybe one shorter conditioning or HYROX thing per week mixed in with the running is probably fine. I actually was doing only when I was prepping for this, I mostly focused on running, and I did like one erg kind of cardio workout a week and like one compromise run, and then and then that was it. And then I didn't do any long HYROX sessions until about a month out. Kind of thing. Now that's a little hypocritical. Our programs have it kind of building people up the whole time, but it's like you only do that program the 12 weeks going into the race. We assume you're doing your like our general programs before you do that, and then you're going into that 12 weeks out. So I do think that when you're 1-2 months out, practicing the station work, getting used to how you feel, pacing, like where you're going to struggle with, what stations are going to be harder for you, that will be helpful from the specificity standpoint of it. But you're not going to this is where people get confused. You're not going to get better at the stations in like the Metcon-y type things. Just like CrossFit, like you're not going to get better at like the skills in the Metcons unless you practice them outside of the Metcons kind of thing. So you need to make sure you're still getting strong or working on the running outside of that. So that way, when you do the workouts, you're doing it as like a simulation conditioning type piece and not relying on that to get you stronger or faster. And that's the way I think about it, right? Like you're getting fitter and you're practicing it, but you're not like the individual components. You need to make sure you're like, you know what I mean? Like you're building the capacity to do those outside of just the conditioning sessions or the HYROX sessions.
Did I get your strategy recommendation right? So take your weak legs easy, and then on your stronger legs, go hard in HYROX. Was that correct?
More or less. So I think that actually we're about to release like a HYROX pacing guide resource or email flow thing. We just wrote it yesterday. So eventually that will be coming out to anyone listening. Is like really like
get in there, bro.
You kind of want to pace the race, like taking the first few events easy. Recovering on the row, steady on the burpees, and then push hard at the end is kind of our recommend strategy for most people.
That's pretty standard for everyone.
Yeah, for most people. I mean, you're going to save more time pushing the runs than you are pushing the stations. But you need to like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's the running race. Most of the time is spent running. Like most of the time of the race is spent running. So being able to like push the stations where you can, but be able to like go into it and not need to recover in your run, but you can kind of go into your run and push the run is the way you want to think about it.
So push it. You have to push the run regardless. That's kind of what I got wrong. It's like, if you're a shit runner, it's like, no, you still have to fucking run. But then within the stations, like kind of try to play to your strengths there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people make the mistake of pushing the stations. And then they die for the runs, and you're not going to make up that much time on the stations. I mean, it does matter and it does add up. Like when I just did it and I realized coming out of it, I ran really consistently. Like my splits were like even the entire time. I nailed it. But I think I held myself back a little bit on the stations because I was too afraid to blow up for the runs because I was so focused on that. So it's not to say sandbag the stations, have a strategy for it. But like, knowing where your strengths versus weaknesses are will also be helpful there. Like I'm not good at skiing and rowing. I'm 5'1". I'm never going to be an erg princess. It does not matter how hard I push. So there's no reason for me to blow up on those. So I took the ski easy in the beginning, which most people recommend because it's really early on. You're not going to win the race in the ski. And then the rower, you're sitting down for the first time ever. So using that to recover and regroup, because that back half of the race is hard, but you can push it because you're that later end of it. Because you have like the burpees and the lunges. Well, burpees come before the row, I'm pretty sure. But you have the lunges and the farmer's carries and the wall balls, which you can kind of push there at the end once you kind of start to feel good if you can maintain that with the running. So yeah, I think that most people forget that it's a running race and that running is a lot of what you're going to need to do to become better at it. And then just figuring out your strengths versus weaknesses in the stations. Like I did really good on the sled push. I'm strong. But I still strategized to do a half lap, 3-second break, half lap, 3-second break. Like I still strategized how I was going to pace that in it. So I wasn't totally trashing myself going into that next event. Someone who's less fit, maybe it's, hey, we're doing quarters and taking a break. You know what I mean? Maybe someone who's more fit can do a whole lap kind of thing. And that's where you kind of figure out for yourself. And you can kind of work that out with training. And I don't think everyone needs to go do a full simulation, maybe doing like a HYROX or like a run between the intervals events, just to know how you transition and feel and your legs are going to feel and where your strengths and weaknesses are. But yeah, I mean, it's a running event, but don't blow yourself up in the first third because then you're going to, and I've done one, everyone's going to be like, oh, she hasn't done that many races. But like, and this is like also strategy for my coaches who have done like 6-7 of them at this point in time. Like these are like our collective team thoughts on how to approach this.
It goes to show how much of a running contest it is because, how tall, what's his name? I forgot his name. And I don't actually know the female HYROX world champion. Is the female HYROX world champ or world record holder very tall?
I want to say everyone
who's Hunter McIntyre. He's not that tall, is he?
No, but I want to say a lot of people who are doing it are probably, at least the females are probably, it's like 5'6", 5'7". I feel like there's one girl that I think Tia partners and doubles with is pretty tall. She seems pretty tall.
Okay.
But I think the one,
like tall girls can run too, so I guess that's stuff like
yeah. Tall girls can run too. It might be a little bit of that mix of like, also if you're not super tall and lanky, like you also are probably a little bit easier at some of the strength stuff kind of thing. I think it's a happy medium of like, but I will say most people aren't super big. Like you're not winning HYROXs when you're like beefcake level power lifter, bodybuilder mass. Like they're runners who have some strength. You know what I mean? Like they're runners who have some strength. Like they look more traditionally like what you're going to see.
Some of the dudes, though, I'm surprised that the winning men aren't skinnier. But that's why I'm like, or are they just hell bent on looking good and they're willing to sacrifice? Like the whole male community is willing to sacrifice on time. But it's gotten so competitive. I mean, the guy who beat Hunter recently, he was a little bit skinnier.
Yeah, I think also a lot of guys sometimes get away. Well, I think what happens in the hybrid space all the time is people were really into lifting. I'm calling myself out here, and they start running a ton. Yeah. So like, it's really easy to maintain that aesthetic once you have it. You know what I mean? Like it's so like a lot of people like don't realize that these people that they're worshiping in hybrid spaces, like they lifted first. They had a really good lifting base, or they're like an Alec who was a freaking aerobic monster, but then actually took the time off to get stronger and lift. And now is combining them in a way that is disgusting. But most people, I think they just look like that by default of like how their entry to fitness was. Or I think that there's vanity, right? There was the joke. You can't do a HYROX race with a shirt on. Like that's a rule. Like you can't do that. So I also think a lot of people are not as dense muscularly as you think they are. I think they're just lean. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, especially in this space. They're not very true. They're not dense. They're just lean.
Sort of,
yeah. They're muscular and they look great. That's not me ragging on them, but they're not like that density. Just
they're not 200 pounds. No. Yeah, they're like 170. Some of them could even be. Yeah, like high 160s or something.
Yeah. I think that's what but leanness gives the illusion of fitness, even if it's not, not to say they're unfit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So saying that someone has an aerobic base and a decent running background, what does a prep look like with the running aspect of HYROX? Is it a lot of tempo work, still topping out that aerobic base?
I think for this, it probably is a mix of the people who are doing really good at HYROX. They're crushing miles and kilometers. They're doing volume. They're doing zone 2. They're doing a lot of running. I think a lot of people, again, just like Gen Pop people, don't realize that people who are really good at this are still training a lot in their training. Like they're running 40, 50, 60 miles a week in preparation for HYROX. I think it depends. That's the big controversy is like nobody knows right now how much you should actually be running because it's so new that like it's probably just like everyone's doing something different. So I can't say like you must run this much if you want to be a lot better. But with all things running, if you want to get better, you're probably going to have to do a lot of easy volume to get that base and drive that up or sustain that. But I think it's then adding in like a mix of, I think that training at your higher running intensities as general quality speed workouts matters more for getting better at running than just training the compromised running, right? Like I think a lot of people overemphasize training compromised running, which I think is important. You should include some of that HYROX specific training in there. But if you want to
being tired, like fuck, come on.
Yeah, but the entire
sorry if I'm speaking out of turn.
No, you're fine. But like you're not going to ever be a faster compromised runner than you are going to be a flat all out runner. And if you want to get fitter, you have to practice training driving up above like that, essentially like the second aerobic threshold, anaerobic threshold into like zone 4, whatever, and getting used to those higher, faster speeds, actually training them and actually training to repeat them and recover between them. So I think that you should have at least one speed workout day per week that is kind of similar in nature of like, almost the volume of training for a 10K to half marathon across the week, depending on the person. But the speed workouts are probably going to look a little bit more like you're training for maybe like a 1-2 mile to 5K race kind of thing. I think like a lot of like 300, 500, 1 kilometer repeats at like those higher intensities and repeating them and recovering and doing those again. So you're actually getting faster. Like you're training specifically to get faster, right? Kind of thing. And then mixing that in with, I think that there's maybe some pickups and runs or something that might be worth doing. So you're running fast, recovering, running fast, recovering. But I think you're doing one quality, really hard speed workout per week, and then probably some sort of running HYROX interval session per week. And the rest is probably just volume. Or maybe you're doing some non-running cross training that is on the erg that is a little bit moderate and pushed. And then if you are someone who's higher volume, you can handle that. Maybe you are doing 2 quality-ish type sessions in a week. But I'll tell you, at one point training I went to Patagonia and then Kilimanjaro back to back this year with a 2-week gap in between. So those 2 weeks between,
nice
I did
travel schedule.
Insane. It's my first 2 big international trips like that to Africa and South America. And I did them back to back. It was nuts. And I did those 2 weeks between an interval day and a tempo day, just because we were hammering intensity since I was like taking 2 weeks off training and then taking like 2 weeks off. And I'll tell you, people want to hammer intensity. That fucking sucked. That was shit to do 2 hard running sessions in a single week. And I was only running 20 miles a week. I was like, I just doing that. I was like, I just didn't feel good. I was like, I don't want to be doing that. That's hard versus like if you have like more volume and you're recovering and handling that and all that stuff. So that's kind of my take on approach of it. More gen pop. Of course, elites are probably doing more quality sessions or bigger quality sessions or bigger quality workouts or mixing that in. But we're talking about regular people who probably just need one hard running interval day per week mixed in with some HYROX specific stuff and the rest just easy to actually get better at running for fitness kind of thing. But you said if they have an aerobic base, then you could just probably handle more of that component of intensity. Me and my coach, Trevor, we did kind of low volume, high intensity going into our HYROXs, but we had an aerobic, like I had 100-miler base going into it. So I pulled back my running mileage to like 20 to 25 miles per week and was doing like hard running essentially twice a week, one on a specific day, one on a HYROX day. And that's still like that's probably 50% of my training was intensity for this, but my volume was cut back and I had that base going into it. So there's like that nuance and caveat versus like something coming from very little to going up. You're probably just doing like one harder-ish day a week and then doing the HYROX prep on top of it.
This has been an amazing hour and 5 minutes and I am absolutely fucking fried. I wish I could hold on for longer.
No, it's okay. I know you guys are late. For those listening, it's we did this at 7:30 my time and 9:30
I started going to bed earlier. It's fucked me for the nighttime podcast. I have a bedtime. I started at like 6 weeks ago.
Well, I selfishly didn't want to stay up late.
Sorry. No, thanks so much. Like we appreciate you coming on, especially it was last minute and like we're on such a good streak with having sick guests on. And I was like, fuck, if I can pull off a good guest this week, we're just
got lucky because I'm one of those people who is either never available and you can't get a hold of me and it's impossible to get me to do anything and I say no, or it's so last minute enough that I actually have the time and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. You got lucky that it was
meant
later.
to be.
You got yeah.
And so you did DM me when we were teeing this up. There was something you wanted. I mean, obviously we're going to plug like everything.
Yes,
obviously go check out List if you're already not followed. But what was it? Something specifically?
Yeah, I totally forgot about this. So for the next 2 weeks, starting next week, we host this annual fundraiser. We didn't do it last year, but we're bringing it back this year. So we did it in 2021, 2022, 2023, and now again in 2025 called Load Women. And so if you guys missed the controversy, in 2021, NCAA gave men this sick weight room for March Madness and women got like yoga mats and like a dumbbell tree that went up to like 15 pounds or some shit like that. Like that's what they got.
I thought college had women lifting weights and stuff, or is it just this one?
Well, this was what NCAA had at like the March Madness Training Center, like during like the events. And it was like this whole controversy.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, like that's what it was. And so, we were like, well, that's just such a striking like picture of like how men versus women are treated in strength and sports space kind of thing. And like this assumption that like women don't lift heavy or can't lift heavy. And then we already know there's these like psychosocial narratives that go against women lifting, like being bulky or they're going to die if they touch a weight in their luteal phase or they can't handle intensity or volume or anything like that. So we already know they have these things. So Load Women is essentially it used to do it for a month. We're just doing it for 2 weeks. Attention spans are shorter nowadays, unfortunately, where we have 6 shirts. Like they're super sick. My friend Tatum designed them this year and she's an amazing graphic designer for the fitness and business industry, like super sick shirts, hoodies, tanks. And then we're fundraising for the Women's Sports Foundation, essentially fundraising money for women in sport. In the past, we did it for them in the Perry Initiative, and we raised over $60,000 in the first 3 years of our fundraiser between those two, but we're just doing WSF this year. But then other than that, like if you don't want to donate or buy a shirt, the idea is that for 2 weeks, you're encouraging and spreading the narrative of like lifting for women. Women can lift heavy, encouraging women to get in the gym, inviting a friend to the gym, holding a clinic in your gym, like doing something to like help educate, share, and spread the word of the importance difference of lifting, and lifting heavy and the safety and like awesomeness of it for women, to encourage more women to get into that space or like embrace sport, even in life, if they aren't an athlete, so to speak. So it's really just kind of this big community event that is to promote women lifting and training hard, mixed with a fundraiser for women in sport on short sales and all that stuff. So it's free to participate. We have an Instagram, Load Women. Me and my friend Claire Zai we're the ones who started it. My friend Tatum came in this year and made everything sick. We have stickers, we have clothes, we have all this stuff. And yeah, it's 2 weeks and it's basically just like promoting being strong and badass for women in the fitness space and sports space. And that's about it.
Hell yeah.
There you go, boys. We all love women lifting weights. So go give them some money, buy a hoodie or something, or at least, just have some conversations and encourage everyone to lift heavy.
Yeah. So that's it.
Right.
And then otherwise, you can find all my shit on my Instagram and website.
Oh, yeah. So Instagram is the main place to find you. Are you doing YouTube?
I am doing YouTube, and I'm working really fucking hard to grow my YouTube. And I put a lot of money into my YouTube.
But check out the YouTube.
I put a lot of work and money into my YouTube. And I was joking with Alec about that because I feel like sometimes I think if I was a bro who just got up there and just used some shit in the most low edited video, it'd probably be more viral. But I actually like put like time and effort and money into that. So it's got some good stuff. But men are more on YouTube than women. So it's harder for me to grow it because men are more on YouTube.
I was about to say, none of my girlfriends have been mad about YouTube because I was like, the space is open for a female, but then there's just not enough females there.
Women aren't consuming it. And you know what? It's funny because I am trying so hard to grow there. And I was like, my ideal client is actually just listening to podcasts on the go. Because it's like, what's the joke that for men, if they send you a link to a YouTube video, that's a sign of affection in your culture? Yeah. So like,
That's pretty true.
Oh, wait, as a female content creator, should you be cranking out a podcast? That's more likely to be.
I think I revamped my podcast. I just renamed it from the Messy Middle to the Hybrid Lab because I'm more of a hybrid person now than this like nuanced health and fitness conversation gal, which I still am you probably could tell from this conversation today. I'm very nuanced still, like, maybe it depends, whatever. Like I still have that, but
female Greg Knuckles vibes.
I love Greg. So yeah, I try. I think that, most women are on Instagram or TikTok, but I can't stand TikTok because the comment section makes me want to run my.
And you need a long platform as well. That's kind of annoying.
I'm the exception to the rule because I'm everywhere because I am me and I'm a content creation machine. So don't just like copy me because you might die. But I think that you need some place of longer form content to send people. Podcast is probably the easiest, cheapest, lowest hanging place to get people, honestly, than YouTube. So like, it might be easier to just have a podcast, but make sure you actually have something to say and you're interesting. Like, I think that's where most people fail in the online space is you're not interesting. So no one gives a shit about what you have to say.
That's a tough thing to say to some people because I want to be like, everyone can do it. And I do believe that everyone has the skills to make a piece of good content. But
you have to give people a reason to want to listen to you kind of thing. And that's where I think a lot of people either they don't have a personality or they're afraid to have a personality in the online space is more so that. Like, so anyway, that's why the bros blow up with low edited stuff because they're interesting and funny. Apparently I'm calling myself out because I'm not interesting and funny. I'm too like calculated and informative. But anyway.
You got to be more crass than
I used to be, I was known for being sassy, but then I just am too tired to fight with people online anymore. And I was like really burnt out on my PhD and angry. And I have like a really good life now. So I don't have anger in me anymore. So it's a lot harder for me to be as bitchy as I used to be. Cause I just don't have it anymore. I'm like, life's too good. No one's up against me. I have no more fuck you fire. I just want to help you out. I want to tell you good job and cheer you on and help you out. I don't want to fight you anymore. So I used to do that. It's a big way I grew my platform was being sassy and calling stuff out and being a little bit more crass. But I retreated to my safety of kindness hole now. But maybe I'll bring it back out. Maybe I'll bring it back out.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Bring it back for the long form only.
That's the safe place to do it. Well, anyway, so maybe, I don't know what you should do for your content creation strategy. You should probably just post more consistently on Instagram to start and stop not posting. Like that's probably the first thing to do.
Actually start.
Yeah.
All right. That was some good advice. All right, everyone. We will see you next week with another amazing guest.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.